Got off a huge weekend in Hong Kong. We had the Group 1 Stewards Cup and the first leg of the 4-year-old series as well, the Hong Kong Classic. We've got the matchup in the Group 1 as well with Golden 60 taking on Hong Kong International Cup winner in Romantic Warrior and mile winner, his conqueror on that day in California Spangle. I'm Andrew Jeune for Asian Racing Report, joined here by Michael Cox, founder and editor as well. Michael, and we'll start with the Stewards Cup, the obvious place to go. And it was all billed as the Clash of the Titans, the big three, and that's what they got when they lined up at the top of the straight. But did Golden 60 have a little bit too much up his sleeve? Well, he did. He ran out, I would almost say, quite an easy winner in the end, didn't he?
I think so. I think, it's a much hyped race, and it's often that a race with that much hype and that much build-up, we've been talking about it for more than a month, it's rare that it lives up to expectation, but it really did. It was a great contest. I think Golden 60 was helped by a great ride by Vincent Ho. There was best horse won on the day for sure, but there are ways in which Vincent could have got that wrong, and I think he rode a supremely confident race. He just trailed into it. He let the other two horses fight their battle out, and he was confident in his horse's ability to outsprint them at the end.
His own admission, he got the race last year probably quite wrong, and it was a completely different ride this time around, sitting right behind Zach. Zach rode Waikuku to victory last year, and he got miles out of his ground, and he couldn't get there on that occasion. But I think he's now not riding him in the same sort of way. It's the whole pace versus position argument of where you need to be in a race. But from where he was, Golden 60 supporters, as second favourite in the race as well, didn't have too many nervous moments.
Yeah, and I think for Vincent, maybe the turning point was getting beaten on him and not losing the ride. Now, it's the oldest story in Hong Kong, or one of the oldest stories in Hong Kong racing, is that the local jockey taking the horse through the grades and then having a Douglas White, Zach Purton, Joe Moreira, name your alpha of the time, to take the ride. Now, it's one thing then, but then we saw it many times when Derek Long rode Beauty Generation to his first Group 1 victory. He's only got the ride for as long as it is that he's beaten, and then he loses it to the champion rider. I think when Vincent was rolled and did have his critics, and the connections have stuck with him, it's emboldened him and given him that confidence to be able to ride the race he did on Sunday.
Romantic Warrior, it was brave, I think, of Danny Jeune to drop back to the 1600 metre six. It was brilliant on International Day, winning over the 2000. And the one, as a neutral, if you like, disappointing thing for me is if he had won Romantic Warrior, surely the Triple Crown would have been on. Now with Golden 60 winning, they're talking about overseas, thankfully, or now looks like he might go overseas, but the Triple Crown doesn't look like it'll happen again.
Well, now people are going to have to figure out what the Triple Crown is, because it's so rarely attempted and people don't know. They think it's the 4-year-old series. It's the Triple Crown. Of course, it's not. It's an incredibly difficult feat to go from 1600 to 2000 to 2400. It is a pity, but, one of the great things about Hong Kong's structure and its limited race fixtures is that these horses have to race each other. They don't have an option to go somewhere else and look for an easier target. And that's what gave us such a great race there, with 3 horses with differing strengths coming in a distance where they all had a chance to win.
And California Spangle and Romantic Warrior renewing their rivalry and proving once again, I think they've run right up to form. There's very little between them. There's every chance now that they'll go in different directions going forward.
Yeah, and hopefully for these horses, because they keep running into each other and there's such tough assignments at different distances, maybe that's the catalyst for some Hong Kong horses to travel.
Which leads us nicely into Golden 60. Vincent Ho quite vocal last season about him wanting to be on the road and wanting to go to Japan and maybe even England as well. But now there's even talk of Dubai.
Well, that is the talk, and I've contacted the connections, spoke to Francis Loy and Stanley Chan, the owner, this morning. No word yet, but I guess it's going to be one of those wait and see. We're all on tenterhooks waiting to see. I think the racing fan in all of us,
it's now or never, isn't it? Surely, if they don't do it this time, then it's not going to happen next year. Or not at his peak anyway.
Exactly. I'd hate to see him go when he's 8 and have it be that we never knew. If only he'd gone when he was younger. We've seen that before with horses that have travelled. So, look, I hope that he does go to the Dubai turf. I hope he goes to Japan as well, the Yasuda Kenin at the end of the season. Of course, these are a race-by-race proposition. look, Golden 60, well known as a horse that he doesn't take his runs well. He puts everything into it. And you see him in the post parade. He can be quite distressed at times. So I wasn't there yesterday at Sha Tin, but a lot depends on how the horse pulls up. But look, a lot of horses, when they travel, they're more calm away from home, and travel can help them. So look, maybe I broke journalistic ethics a little bit just to say to Stanley Chen, the owner, I'm a fan of you going to Dubai. And I think most people who love to see great racing and great contests would like to see the horse travel. I think it's, for me, undoubtedly Hong Kong's greatest ever horse. So let's see.
He doesn't have to travel to prove himself per se, but I think the racing fans want to see him on the international stage taking on the world's best as well. So we'll wait and see what happens with Golden 60 and California Spangler. Imagine he'll come back and trip for the Queen Silver Jubilee Cup and Romantic Warrior, pushing on to the 2,000 metres of the Gold Cup. But we had the Classic Mile as well. If we move on to that, which looked a little bit more open on paper, and the whole Derby scene looks very open coming into the first leg, and that's how it's borne out by a great front-running ride, as it turned out, from Jamie Kah on Voyage Bubble.
Yeah, well, you can log on to Asian Racing Report and see some analysis from the Classic Mile from me today, and how I framed it is, the Stewards Cup promised to be a race for the ages and delivered. The Classic Mile probably didn't have as higher aims. It just promised to help us sort out who might be a good Derby prospect. It delivered nothing. I went into the race thinking we'll get clarity from this. Like, don't worry, people were confused. We've got our Hong Kong Derby rankings on Asian Racing Report. People are struggling to put them in order of 14. And I said, don't worry, this race will sort it out. It'll be really clear who the Derby horses are. It was a complete fail in that respect. And because of Jamie Kah's great ride, she took control of this race right from the start. First half in 48.5, that first 800 metres, it basically meant that those in the back half of the field could not look good no matter what they did. I don't know how to assess, and I think it is impossible to assess anything that finished worse than fifth in that race.
Well, Galaxy Witness actually finished in fifth place, and he was the only one that made up any significant ground. If you look at the positions in running, they've pretty much stayed in order all the way around, right from even from the top of the straight. Galaxy Witness did make up ground. Of course, you had Cordyceps 6 just in front of him. I think it was a brave effort, stepping up to the 1600s as far as he was concerned. But I mean, Voyage Bubble and Tuchel, to a certain extent, finishing in second, they'd have been getting lumps of weights off the Keefies and packing treadmills. Had it been a handicap, they've beaten them off level weights.
Well, packing treadmill is disappointing. And news out of that camp is that he won't be progressing through to the 1800 and 2000 at the Derby. No surprise there, but not just because he didn't get the distance. It's pretty flat. It looked like he was on a treadmill coming into the straight. He just did not make ground. But just talking to some people today about how to analyse this race, there's a school of thought. If you didn't know anything about sectional times and you hadn't seen these horses run before, and I showed you this race and said, there's a 1600 metre race here, it's a lead up to the Derby, tell me which horse you want to be on when they get up to the distance. You'd say Galaxy Witness. Look, he's the only horse to make ground. It's a bit of a trap to fall into, to just take it at that sort of face value. But because of how slow the race was run, it allows horses like Galaxy Witness, who is going into the race suspect at a mile and beyond, and Cordyceps 6, an out-and-out sprinter in the race, it allows these horses, because they're not tested stamina-wise, to reel off a fast sectional over the last 400, where some of these horses that are more suited to longer, they're just not going to get into their ground. They're not going to get going in time to make that eye-catching, go-past horses sort of run.
So, great result for Jamie, for rookie year as well, with Voyage Bubble. The Derby picture possibly not any clearer, but he's certainly one to look out for. I don't think it's a fluke by any and she controlled the race moving forward now to the Classic Cup.
And the Classic Cup can be a very similar race to what we saw on Sunday. Tempo related. It's a very long run down the back straight at 1800 metres. So horses that are race on speed. It's actually the result on Sunday is a typical Classic Cup result. You know, on pace, upset win. What do we do with this? Muddled. They'll all go on, and I don't want to discount them from Derby reckoning. I mean, 2,000 meter races at Sha Tin can be really different as well. What we should look out for, though, it's hard to just as we can't knock the runs from back in the field, we can't get too excited about anything either.
No.
You know, and there could be something from outside of the classic mile that comes into it. Look, just as a real dark horse X factor, John Sizer's horse Beauty Eternal is one that I'm really interested in from outside of the classic mile. He won last week over 1,200. He goes again February 12, 1,400 with Zach Purton aboard. He's now on a rating of 74. If he wins impressively, he might just be in the Derby picture. If he can get 12 points, it'll be one time that John Size might not be complaining about the handicapper giving you double-digit ratings, but he could put himself in a picture, and Size has done this before with horses that are brilliant. Luger, Ping Hai Star, both of them coming from outside the traditional paths and winning handicaps and then finding a way to get their prep right. I remember with Ping Hai Star, he was taking it to Happy Valley and trialling it over 1,700 meters. Things like that. So Beauty Eternal, another one to watch. Super Sunny Singh, a recent winner. He'll go into the Classic Cup now. And interestingly, the horse we've highlighted, Galaxy Witness, Vincent Ho, his jockey, has committed to Super Sunny Singh, Chris So's horse, for the Classic Cup. He's excited about him. In the analysis today, like, he drops a pretty big name in comparison, and that is Golden 60. I don't know if Vincent was tired or like, I had to double check. I said, wait, we're talking about Super Sunny Singh. And he said, yeah, he said this horse has given him a great feel coming through. So there's a couple of horses to watch from outside of this Classic Mile going into the final two races of the 4-year-old series.
Okay, that gives you an idea of how open it is. We're talking about horses rated in their 70s after the Classic Mile's been run that still might be Derby potentials when we look at that triple figure rating as normally being the benchmark. Quick words or otherwise on Jamie Kah. She made a big impression with a double on the weekend, and lots of people calling for her to be the next Hong Kong recruit.
Yeah, our newsletter today deals with Jamie Kah and the recruitment potentially from the club. She's in a position where she doesn't need to commit full time. You know, It's really up to the club to make a case for her to stay. I think she brings so much to Hong Kong racing, and not just the diversity. I think that matters. There hasn't been enough push for female jockeys. There's been too many good female jockeys around the world and underrepresented in Hong Kong, and that's a problem for the club to solve. You know, and here's an opportunity. But she's a great jockey, flat out. Great jockey with the resume that fits, and now the success. She's shown she can handle it in those conditions, that she's well liked by connections. The popularity is there, but she would have looked at someone like Hugh Bowman, who has been popular for many years in Hong Kong and got the best of both worlds. Great success in Australia and can fly in on a Sunday to Hong Kong. So it was interesting to see that Jamie Kah was talking about logging frequent flyer points yesterday, not moving into Sha Tin.
Well, I mean, it did feel a little bit like the Sha Tin of old, didn't it, with Ryan Moore and James McDonald as well. We used to have these big name riders come in, ride for the day, and then leave again. So maybe we're getting back to that. And that's a good thing for Hong Kong, that they're actually able for these jockeys to come in and these parachute-style missions.
I mean, that's a first step. I'd really like to see further back, when Ryan Moore came and stayed for a couple of months or a month, you know, even if it's 1 month, I think having jockeys ride week in, week out in Hong Kong is the goal that the Jockey Club should have. But yeah, these star-studded days and having 1 through 14 with like highly competent, jockeys who feel confident and do different things in races certainly adds to the racing. All
right, big weekend coming up as well this weekend. More Group 1 racing. What else is coming up for Asian Racing Report?
Yeah, big week. Centenary Sprint Cup. Lucky Sweynesse, the likely favourite there. We'll be catching up with Manfred Mann and taking a look at what his future might hold.
Just hit 600 winners.
He did hit 600 winners, but still doesn't know if he'll be training next year.
Another big number for him. He's 65 this year, next year.
He is. So he's facing mandatory retirement, Manfred, and there's still some uncertainty. Well, there's certainly uncertainty from Manfred about whether he will still be training next year, and where does that leave Lucky Sweynesse. So that'll be interesting. We'll have new Hong Kong Derby rankings on Wednesday, and lots more from both Japan and Australia. Really looking forward to the week.
All right, so look to see Beauty Eternal's name maybe figuring somewhere.
I think he'll make the top 14.
All right. Well, you can find us across all the social media platforms. Like and subscribe, and keep tuning in for more on Asian Racing.